Hi, Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. A bit ago when I made this 4-in-1 screwdriver handle, I noted that it could be upscaled, if you will, using eccentric techniques to make it not round. Purpose would be so that it would not roll on a flat surface. I also received comments that I didn't put a ferrule on it. Well, I didn't think I needed one since I left plenty of wood on here, but let's go ahead and upscale this. I'll use a stack of wood that's just laying around in my shop of various hardwoods here. And we'll use this eccentric technique so that I can make more of a flat on two sides so that it won't roll on a flat board. The other difference is a copper fitting to serve as a ferrule, and it's nice. The downside of this one compared to the old one is it does take about twice as long. So if you want a simple one, use this one. If you want one that's a little bit more refined, then this eccentric 4-in-1 screwdriver handle is the one for you. So today, let's make an eccentric 4-in-1 screwdriver handle.
I'm starting with a squared off stack of laminated woods left over from some long ago project. I've cut the blank oversized to allow for a mounting tenon. I've also marked 4 additional centers on one end of the wood, 1/4 inch away from the original center. The first task is to rough it round and turn the tenon on the end. I want the tenon fairly large to allow room for the offset centers that I'll use later when unrounding the handle. I'll work first on the largest portion of the handle. Before I put it into the chuck, I'll do the eccentric or off-axis portion. I originally thought I'd offset it 4 ways. After getting started, I decided that 2 offsets would be sufficient. So I'm offsetting the handle end by 1/4 inch by moving the tailstock over, leaving the headstock where it is. After putting a flatter curve on one side, I shifted the axis to the opposing marking and did it all again. Since I'm cutting so much air, it's kind of a wild ride. Sanding was much more of a challenge on this now out of round piece. I wound up holding a piece of sandpaper by the edges and letting the middle touch the wood to sand it. There was no way my fingers could back up the sandpaper. With the eccentric turning complete, I turned the wood around and mounted it in the chuck. Then I remembered I needed the metal from the store-bought screwdriver to size the holes I needed to drill. So, taking a break, I placed a screwdriver in a holding jig. At the bandsaw, I sawed off the handle well beyond where the metal insert was. Once I could see better how deep it went, I sawed off more. And yes, I should have lowered the upper guides. A viewer asked how to get the insert out of the purchased screwdriver. The answer is really any way you can. I tried to hold it in a clamp and used a chisel to split the plastic. A board protected the table saw from the chisel, and I'm still trying to figure out what I should have used to protect my hands from the chisel. With the insert free, I returned to the lathe to drill out the shallow hole for the insert. Masking tape marks how deep to drill. Next, switch to a smaller diameter bit to drill the deeper hole for the tips. With the hole ready, I'm ready to add the ferrule. I had purchased a copper straight coupling fitting from the plumbing store. At the lathe, I trimmed just a little bit off the end of the wood, then turned down the end to fit the copper fitting. Once I had the fit right, I sawed the fitting with a hacksaw just a little longer than the wood. Next time I might try cutting the copper with a pointed scraper. The hacksaw left a rough edge, but I did not deal with the roughness until later. I spread some medium CA glue and pushed on the piece of copper fitting using the tailstock to ram it home. After the glue hardened, I used my carbide cutter to scrape the end of the fitting smooth and even with the wood. This seemed to be a better alternative to having to tool the wood to length to fit the length of the fitting. With the ferrule finished, I could finish forming the thinner part of the handle. This is back on the main turning axis, so this shaping goes quickly. Next, I could sand this last area of the handle, including the copper. Finally, I prepared the very end of the screwdriver and sanded it before parting the last little bit off. I hate sanding the ends of spindles. This time I saw the ferrule as an opportunity. I wrapped the ferrule with masking tape, then reversed the screwdriver again with the ferrule in the chuck. A bit more sanding, and I applied mineral oil and beeswax to finish it. So now I have the more complex version of my 4-in-1 or 6-in-1 screwdriver. Compared to my earlier screwdriver version, this one adds a not so round handle, so it has less of a tendency to roll, and it adds a ferrule for a little more strength. Next time, I would continue the eccentric or off-center work a little further towards the neck and try an axis shift of 3/8 or 1/2 inch for a flatter curve to reduce the rolling risk a little more. In the end, you be the judge. Do you want the ferrule? Do you want it not to roll? Personally, I refuse to take it to the belt sander to flatten the handle. After all, I'm a wood turner. That would be sacrilege. Please click the like button on this video and subscribe to both my website and YouTube channel. Always wear your face shield. But help! I'm running low on possible facial injury insults to convince you to wear the face shield. Until next time, this is Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns.